Could you talk a little bit about the Houston offense? You're familiar with Clayton Tune. You've played against him twice now. What's your thoughts on Clayton as a quarterback? What he does well, etc.
Yeah, I think he does everything pretty well. He's the last 2 years we've played him. He's had big games, thrown for a lot of yards, hit us on a lot of explosive plays. That's kind of been, our conversations with our players this week about how many big plays we've given up to these guys over the last 2 years, and a big part of that is Clayton Tune, and then he's surrounded with some really good athletes that can run, get the ball to guys in space, that take shots down the field. And so the thing about Clayton is, he's got a really nice arm. He can make all the throws, but he's really dangerous when he pulls the ball down and runs it. He can make things happen. When protection breaks down, just getting out of the pocket, moving his feet, whether it's throwing the ball down the field, when he scrambles or running it for extra yards. Obviously, he's a big part of their running game. I think he's maybe their leading rusher. I know in 2 games this year he has been. So, he's a dual threat, really good player that's been in Coach Holgerson's system for a while now. And I know he's a guy that Coach Holgerson trusts and knows how to run the offense and knows where to get the football.
So he left the Grambling game with a hamstring issue that apparently had carried over from the previous game. Does that make you not worry about his running element as much? I mean, I'm not sure a guy that's got a hamstring issue is going to be wanting to take off a lot.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with that. It sounds like they think he's going to be okay for our game, so I've got to kind of assume that he is. And so our game plan is not really changing based off of a possible injury. But at the same time, you got to kind of have a plan B. What are they going to do if they're not using him in the running game? What are some answers that they may have, and will they approach things a little bit differently? So that's certainly in the back of my mind. But I'm going to go assume that he's healthy, and if he's not, and the backup quarterback that came in last week is a good player too, another dual threat guy. So we've got to be ready for the quarterback to be able to run the football, and so that's kind of the way we're approaching it.
Is that it, Wags?
No, I had one more. Well, I haven't had a chance to analyze their personnel and how much is returning on the offensive side of the ball, but I know they have a ton of JUCO transfers and a ton of just regular FBS transfers. From what your analysis of the first 3 games, is there a lot of new personnel? How many of these guys are back from last year that you're familiar with from having played against them?
They've got a decent amount of guys back. Obviously Clayton's the big one. Tight ends back. Nathaniel Dell, led him in receptions last year. He's a really good wide receiver that we always got to be aware of where he's lined up, and they're big, physical up front. One of the tackles is a freshman, really impressive on film, but they're just maulers up front, and you combine that with great skill, and they're just a really potent, dangerous offense. And like I said earlier, there's just always one play away from taking a shot or hitting you on a big play. And so the challenge for us is going to be to stop the run and then control the pass, not give up big plays in the back end. Just try to make sure that whatever they get, they have to earn it. We haven't done that. Been able to do that in the past 2 games against these guys.
And last for me before I turn it over, Dana Holgerson is a kind of a Mike Leach disciple in a lot of ways. He was at Texas Tech with Leach. And I mean, how would you describe what he does offensively? Is it the same as what Leach does? I mean, your typical air raid, or has he got his own little spin on it?
No, he's got his own spin on it for sure. I mean, I'm sure there's some certain kind of conceptual things that he's held on to for a long time, and probably a lot of things that he got from Coach Leach. But he's more multiple. They're going to run the ball. They're going to get in unbalanced formations, create surfaces, try to run the ball in creative ways. And they just do a lot more formationally and a lot more balanced than a Mike Leach offense.
Scott Wyckoff.
Yeah, Coach, what's made Will Harbor such a good fit at will in this defense that you guys have this season?
Yeah. Will is a really smart player, has an unbelievable work ethic and just attention to detail. I think he may be the hardest worker on our football team. He had a tremendous summer. He's a guy that he does what you coach him to do it. He's a one-timer, so you don't have to tell him things 3 or 4 times. He gets it and does it. And you know, the thing about being a good linebacker is you got to have some instinctual things that go beyond coaching. You know, and I think he has those. And the first game of the year didn't play as well as we hoped he would, and as well as he expected. But I thought certainly against Air Force, man, he really showed us something. He's a tough, gritty player. He's got a bunch of tools, and he's instinctual, and so it's a combination of things that make him a good linebacker.
How does he complement the strengths of Diego with his strengths?
I think they're both tough, gritty, hard-nosed football players, both intelligent, and they complement each other well in that regard. Will can go over, and he's played some Mike. Diego could probably go and play Will. But they're similar type players in that regard, is that they're tough, physical, smart football players. That's the kind of linebackers you like to have here.
I know the disappointment of losing Mitch, but how have the guys stepped up in practice and ready to move forward now against Houston?
Yeah, it's obviously super disappointing to lose Mitch. I thought Taylor Robinson came in the Air Force game and really did some good things. And he's been running with the first group, the last 2 weeks of practice. And the same thing happened to Mitch last year when Evan Faulkman went out in the Air Force game. We got that concussion, and Mitch came in and did some really good things and replaced him. And then from that point on, Mitch was kind of a different guy, a different role. And I think Taylor's embraced it. He's excited about it. Taylor's been here for a while. He's worked really, really hard. He's kind of waited his turn. So I expect him to take full advantage of that. So, but he's had a really good week and a half of practice, had a good bye week, and he's off to a good start this week. So excited about Taylor.
Thanks a lot, Coach. Good luck.
Thank you.
Bill Bergman.
Coach, 2 firsts this weekend, first road trip and first AAC game of the season. How's the team feeling heading into Saturday?
Good, optimistic. We obviously need to go get a W. And I think our guys are hungry. There's been no drop off in intensity or attitude or any of that kind of stuff. And I think we took a step forward despite the loss to Air Force on defense and just the style of football we want to play. So I was encouraged by that. I thought we got a lot better than we were the first week. Obviously want to continue to see that upward progress. But I'm looking forward to the road trip. I think it's good for our guys to get out, get on the road, be together, and galvanize us a little bit and get away, get focused, and get dialed in. And these guys know how good Houston is, and they know what happened last time we played them at Houston. And so just excited about the trip, excited about the opportunity and the challenge that's ahead of us. Our players are as well.
You played college ball down in Texas, grew up in the Southwest United States. Just what's so special about football in the state of Texas?
People love it. Yeah, it's from Pee Wee on up to high school. It's ingrained down there. It's really important in the communities. People rally around it, and I don't know if it seems to be a little bit more important down there than it is some other parts of the country, but yeah, it's just Texas football, man. Friday night lights, and they get to college Saturday night lights. So it's we playing Saturday night. It's exciting. Have a good crowd there, and it's a good venue, and so it should be a lot of good energy there.
And lastly, I heard from Jarius Warren that the team gave you the nickname the Wizard. Do you mind being nicknamed the Wizard?
I don't know if I should be offended by that, or no, I don't know where that came from or how that happened. Obviously, it has something to do with the gray hair in my beard, but that's probably the most of the extent of it. Other than I don't know what other qualities a wizard has, but they're old and they have gray beard. That's the only thing I associate with it.
Perfect. Thanks, Coach.
Let's go. We'll make one more trip around. Wags.
Yeah, Coach, is Kevin looking good for Kevin Brennan?
Yeah, he's going to be fine. Kevin's a tough dude, and he's a guy that you'd have to cut his leg off for him not to play. And so fully expect him to be ready to go. And he's getting a little bit better every day. You know, tweaked his hamstring a little bit against Air Force, but had a little better prognosis than we originally thought. And so he's doing fine.
So in terms of last year's game against Houston, I mean, is it what you said before, the big plays are what it got you last year?
Yeah, I mean, you go back and watch that game, and we stopped the run really well. Gave up a big play right before half. I think it was 9-13 late in the second quarter. We were playing well, and then they hit a 60-yard pass play. That's kind of the way it's been against those guys. And in 19, fortunately, I think we picked 2 and off 4 times. It was a high-scoring shootout of a game, but we were able to turn them over several times. But last year, we played well, and then we give up a big play. And so that's obviously something we can't do around here. The margin for error is really small. So we got to stop the run and control the pass, keep everything in front of us, make them earn what they get, like I said earlier. And we got to get off field on third down, and we need to get some takeaways this week.
And obviously the defense made progress, but Air Force is a different animal than a Houston or a Marshall. Houston's probably a little more akin to Marshall in terms of throwing it around. Is this, in your view, a big test for the defense to, see if it really has improved?
Yeah, it certainly is. And the biggest improvement to me was not the scheme. Air Force obviously very different. It was just the way that we played, the style that we played. It was back to us flying around with reckless abandon, playing with each other. We were more detailed, doing our job. And some of those mistakes you make early on in the year, and it's always the case. You get them corrected and you move on. But I expect us to execute a lot better at a much higher level. And I know that our style of play is going to be much different than it was against Marshall.
Pete Medhurst has joined us. Pete, you have anything?
Brian, you talked just what Scott mentioned about Taylor back there. The fact that you had the extra week here when you go from playing in the shoebox back to this style of football, how much did that help in preparation with a new guy now with a new responsibility back there?
Yeah, I think it helps a lot. When you come off of an academy game like that, when you just spent, a week just doing option stuff, to jump right back into defending a spread offense is tough to do. So we needed the bye week to recover, physically from that physical game we had at Air Force, and then to have an extra week to get ready for this offense is critical for us at this point. It's been tough to do a quick turnaround and have to play these guys. It's difficult enough as it is having 2 weeks to get ready for them, but having a week to transition from the option to this would be tough mentally and as well as physically.
I know the Grambling game kind of skews the numbers a little bit, but what is it about what they're doing so far early in the season here that has allowed them, to get McCaskill, young player, going in the run game, and then obviously Dell trying to fill the shoes of guys like Stevenson who've been so good for them in those big plays, as you talked about in the past?
Well, I think they're really balanced, maybe even more so than they have been in the past. I think the running back's a good player. Like I said, they've got several skill guys to get the ball to on the perimeter. The quarterback being a run threat makes it difficult as well. And then they get into some formations that are challenging, that conflict you. You got enough in the pass game or you got enough in the run game, and they'll take what you give them. Maybe more so in the past, but they got rolling pretty good. I think having the quarterback back, for the third year is really, really big for them in that system. But I think he's comfortable. I think they've got running backs that are dangerous. They've got wideouts that are dangerous. Tight ends are good. They're big physical up front. They're just a really well-balanced offense as far as the way the talent's dispersed. As far as their ability to run and throw it, just makes it real challenging.
How much do offenses like this chase you from your base defense and force you to make some alterations, maybe numbers wise from a schematic standpoint?
Mm-hmm. It's tough against these guys because they give you different personnel groupings, 12, 11, and 10, a little bit of 20, but they'll get into all the same formations out of 12 personnel that they do out of 10 personnel. Right. So if you got base personnel in the field, they can come out and spread. And and different formations that you might only see in 10, 11. So it certainly presents a challenge with what personnel you want to present, put on the field, and they get into 12 personnel and attach both tight ends, give you wing sets, 3 or 4 man surfaces, and then the next play they'll be out and spread. So it's a challenge for sure.
From that standpoint, can you still be as aggressive as obviously you like to be, and as obviously the team was a week ago? Can you still play with that same kind of aggression as long as you trust your eyes and what you're seeing? Is that what the key is there?
Yeah, I think so. And there's certain times where we obviously want to try to be a little bit more aggressive, or certain groupings or formations that we might want to pressure more than others. But yeah, we want to keep that same mentality.
And John goes back to his typical position this week as opposed to being depth at the corner last week, or?
Correct. Yeah, that was strictly, kind of our option package, what we did last week.
Yeah, Coach, we're talking to Nicholas Straw after this. Just what have you seen from him so far this year?
And he's grown a lot since last year. He's a guy that really has always been a guy that plays extremely hard. He's really physical, extremely coachable. Like Will Harbor, he's one of those guys that his work ethic's outstanding. He practices the same way that he plays. And I think he's continuing to grow at that position, and I think the biggest thing for Nick is he's starting to understand some of the situational things a little bit better. The difference between 3rd and 8 and 3rd and 2, and just seeing big picture stuff a little bit better. But he's always been a guy that plays really, really hard. He's physical, he's strong. But getting more and more comfortable with the defense and what we're asking him to do within the defense. And then, starting to see his hard focus has always been really good, but his soft focus is kind of coming into play a little bit more than it has in the past, which makes him a better all-around football player. But really pleased with Nick and just the way he's progressed.
What's been the focus in these weeks and days getting ready for Houston now?
The focus has been just kind of turning all of our arrows and all of our attention to Houston, forgetting what happened in the past 2 weeks, taking those lessons that we've learned from Air Force and from Marshall, and using that to build into Houston, because it's easy to get down and say, you've lost 2 games in a row, but it doesn't matter because we have our entire season ahead of us. And the focus from the coaches has been showing us, guys, we have the entire season ahead. We have so much to play for still. So win one game at a time, do one thing at a time, one practice at a time, right? And that's the focus for this week.
Well, you guys have been looking to yourselves getting ready. What's also impressed you the most that you've seen from this Houston offense?
Yeah, their O-line. They're big and they're physical. Just watching the film, you see them throwing guys around. In the pass pro game, they just wrap you up, and try and hold you a bit, and they'll just toss you. So it's been interesting seeing them, and I'm excited to get after it and to try and test them a bit and see what we can do. But yeah, their O-line is the most formidable part that I've seen.
I know it's a big disappointment losing Mitch, but how's everybody rallied together now moving forward?
Yeah, we're building the younger guys up a little bit. We're having them learn the spot and everything, but it's kind of like we're playing for that a bit. He's a senior leader, he was leading in the offseason and everything, and it's tough and it hurts to lose him. But in spite of that, we're moving on and we're playing for him, for the guys that we've lost. And yeah, so it's just like that.
How cool is it too? You grew up in football country in Ohio, but knowing that you're going to be playing on Saturday night under the lights in one of the biggest cities and one of the biggest states for football in the country in Houston, Texas.
Yeah, I'm excited. It'd be nice getting out there. And yeah, Texas is a big football state and Ohio's a big football state too. So any Saturday night game is always great to be a part of. So I can't wait to get out there. It's going to be awesome.
Thanks a lot. Good luck.
Yes, sir.
Phil Bergman.
Hey, Nick, we were just talking with Coach Newberry. He was talking about how you want to work on big picture stuff and work on your soft focus just a few weeks into the season, just how you feel about those things.
Yeah, so like I said before, I think big picture stuff is seeing the season as a whole and focusing on what we can control. I think that we can improve so much from Marshall and from Air Force, our defense especially. That's all I can control. So seeing how we perform there and focusing on the small things, or that we can, steps or our tight hands, that kind of stuff, focusing on what we can control, that's been the focus. I feel like big picture, seeing the whole season that we have ahead of us, that's what we've been focusing on. And so I think that we can do great things this year still, We have so much to play for. And yeah,
That's it. Thank you.
thanks.
Bill Wagner.
Nick, last year Houston scored 37 points. They put up 420 total yards. What do you got to do to turn that around this year? They're obviously an explosive offense, good quarterback, good athletes. How do you can't give up those numbers again?
Right. I think it all starts up front. Like I said, their line's pretty big, pretty formidable. But if we can win the trenches up front this year, then you'll see a way different outcome for the game as far as yards, as far as the win-loss. I think that once we inflict our will upon their O-line, once we pressure the quarterback and get after him, make him make some mistakes, that'll change so much. And I think that that'll be our big advantage, is that if we can do that, and once we do that this Saturday, that'll change all that stuff.
So obviously Air Force was a different type of offense, a option offense, which you all are familiar with and comfortable playing. Houston's going to be a little more similar to Marshall. Do you think this is a big test? Because obviously you have to still prove that the defense can play well against a team that wants to chuck it around like Marshall did, and what Houston's going to do.
Right. I think it was a big test for us. I think the biggest takeaway from Air Force that I saw was that we kind of got our swagger back on defense. We were playing hard, playing fast, playing physically, which is what we didn't do against Marshall. So that's like the big crux of what our defense is playing physical, playing fast, and playing hard. And we'll bring that into Houston this week. So yeah, it's a test seeing about how we can play against the spread. But I know that we have those elements. We've got them back now after Air Force. And so because of that, we're going to play well and we're going to get after them. So I feel confident going into Houston knowing that our defense is playing with confidence. We're going to make plays happen, and we're going to, be aggressive and be physical.
So obviously key against a guy like Clayton Tune is to pressure him, make him uncomfortable. You can't sit back in the pocket. You and some of the other, as a Raider and Busick, and I mean, there's some guys that are kind of key pass rushers, and you're in that group. But how important is it to get to the quarterback?
Yeah, it's essential. I mean, we know they have athletes. The receivers are really, really athletic, right? So if they can run all day on our DBs, you can't win. Any team like that can't win, if they have all day to pass the ball. They'll just pick us apart, right? So it's essential for us to get to the quarterback and pressure him and get him uncomfortable. Because if he's sitting back all day, heck, you could make a good pass like that probably if you're back there all day. So it's essential for us to get to him, and we will. So that's what we'll do.
This team likes to dress up a lot of things from a formation standpoint, almost similar to the way Air Force shows you a lot of eye candy. How important is eye discipline for you and your defensive teammates this week against that offense?
Yeah, that's super important. That's been Coach Downing's focus for me, is keeping my eyes disciplined, right, on seeing my keys and focusing on my keys only, because they show you a lot of stuff, and they'll shift the whole formation across the field and change up what we do. So me seeing what I see and relying on my keys, relying on what I've been taught in practice, that's so essential, because if I start looking in the backfield or looking at other stuff, getting all crazy, right, I'll make the wrong play, I'll get the wrong read and see the wrong thing, and then next thing you know, they score on us. So yeah, it's super important for me to see my keys, for Jacob to see his keys, for the safeties to see their keys, and do our job. We can just do our job and see our keys amidst all of the shifting and the eye candy and the motions, then we'll be just fine.
Obviously, they've run the ball fairly effectively as well. A lot of these spread offenses, sometimes you don't have to respect the run, but this team will actually run it some. How much respect factor do you have to have for that and stop that first before, obviously hoping to make them one-dimensional?
Right. Yeah. The run game is our number one focus. Like, you stop the run first, you make them one-dimensional, so they have to pass the ball. Then you can kind of dial up blitzes and so on and so forth. So yeah, so the run game has been stressed on the D-line, on the Raiders, especially, like saying we have to kill the run game early and often, put them in second and long, third and long. So we know what they have to do. They have to pass the ball in that case. So it's been a focus saying if we can stop the run game, we'll do pretty well in this game.
The fact that you guys transitioned from a spread to the shoebox, back to the spread now, having to insert Taylor with his new responsibilities in the back, how much does the extra week help you all ramping down from the super physical nature of last week's game to getting back to this spread offense that you'll see this week?
Right. Yeah. CSC games are obviously the most physical games of the entire year. And yeah, they beat you up. So having the extra week was nice to get everyone healthy, get us feeling good again, and then also to change our mindset from option ball back to say, okay, now I'm covering, or now I'm like rushing this way, I'm playing this way, because it's a different mindset. Like you said, it's a totally different mindset. So having the extra time to really just install everything slowly and make sure we are all set on that. Now we have more time to really just go out there and play, because we've had 2 weeks to learn it compared to just one quick short week. We got 2 whole weeks, so we're confident knowing our assignments, knowing our jobs, and we can play fast now.
Final one for me, the fact that, you guys have gotten off from a results standpoint to what it is. How much has this 2 weeks allowed you all as players? We know the coaches are trying to motivate you, and go back to fundamentals and things, but how much have you all as players maybe kind of insulated yourselves this week and tried to bring everybody together as a rallying point? Because, as all of you have said over the last week, there's still plenty to play for. Your conference goals are obviously still very much in front of you starting this week.
Yeah, we definitely have met a lot as a team, as just the players, to kind of talk about what's happening, talk about like what we can still do this year. And it's been good. Like captains have been leading it, players have been leading it, because the best teams aren't led by coaches. The coaches, they're led by players instead. So having our leaders on the team come together, it's been great. And it's kind of shown the vision that we still have so much to play for. We still have so much on the line ahead of us. Like I said, the entire conference play is right here, it's still in front of us. So it's been essential to have like our leaders all get everyone together and talk about that and remind everyone, saying, hey, like, it's okay. Like, it's been 2 games. We have like 10 more to play for, right? We have so much more. But yeah, we've been doing that last week, and it was good.
Nick, I mean, do you just sense that despite 0-2 start and obviously some tumultuous things going on with the program, do you feel that the focus is there, the confidence is there, that, as you mentioned in answering Pete's one question, that you all can turn this around and still have a successful season?
Oh yeah, I have no doubt. I'm more than confident in our team. Anyone can just sit down and say, we've lost 2 games. This is not how it's supposed to be. Like, the season's up in shambles, but it's not. This is our season. We can dictate what happens. So we can control our own destiny still, right? We have this in our hands. So one game at a time, Houston first, one win at a time, and we'll get there.
To the extent as we were you were answering about how everybody has come together as a team, and you guys talked about a lot. How do you avoid trying to do too much, because everybody's eager to try and turn this around and try to turn it down maybe with one hero play? And, sometimes when you try to play the hero, sometimes it can be a 0. How do you avoid that type of thing this week, because everybody's so eager to try and turn it around?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think, like I said before, just doing your job, like burning your eyes on your key, as Coach Volker says, and just focusing on what you can control. Like, I don't have to, play coverage 20 yards downfield and like pick the ball off, right? It's not my job. My job is to rush the quarterback. My job is to stay in my gap, right? So it's doing your job the best that you can is all it takes. Coach Nehemiah told us last year before the Army-Navy game, saying that all it takes is all you got, right? Just give your best effort, doing your job the best you can. That's all it takes. So if we can all do that, just not try and play outside of ourselves, and try and do, like me doing Taylor's job or Diego's job this week, like just doing Nick Straw's job, then we'll be fine. And that's how we'll win. It's one game at a time.